All right, I'm Joe, he's Nick, and you are listening to The Nick and Joe Show. I am in the broadcast center, the Think Radio Broadcast Center in Canada's capital city, Ottawa, and Nick is on the farm. And we started off slow tonight, trying to make sure that all of our settings were all peachy keen and the right directions and framework and pathways. It was just a little bit scary, a little bit rough at the very beginning of the show, Nick, but we got it sorted out. And I have to tell you, I am very pleased. We moved away from the Skype model tonight, ladies and gentlemen, because, Nick is remote here. He's on the farm, and we have had nothing but trouble connecting and with the quality over the past. Well, whenever we've connected to Nick on the farm, pretty much we've had problems. And I don't know that we're going to we have a big announcement coming up. I don't know that we're going to be able to do it next week. So we're not going to tell you what we're doing. But by the week after, we expect that we're going to have some real big changes that are going to even increase the quality and the reach of our show exponentially. But we'll leave that for now. Nick, before we get into the next topic, when we left part one of our podcast this week, part one of our show this week, we left with our listeners in the chat room the question, who invented the whiteout tape? And while we were away, Nick looked it up, but he didn't really make the connection. So I'm looking, and I don't think, I can't really see, I don't think anyone else has, no, I don't see the answer in here. Marin suggested it might be Mr. LePage. That's actually a good guess. You're thinking of LePage glue and tape and stuff like that. But no, it was the Nesmith family. It was Mrs. Nesmith. I don't recall her first name. And
who had a very famous son.
With a very famous son, Mike Nesmith, who was one of the four monkeys. Mike Nesmith. So the Nesmith family from Texas in the United States invented the whiteout tape and made a lot of money doing it. Now, if you're listening to the podcast and not the live show, you don't hear the music that we do in between the segments of our show. And here was another trivia question that I put to Nick, and that was, we were speaking about the Monkees, we were playing I'm a Believer, and that song was made famous by the Monkees, but Nick, it wasn't a Monkees song. The person who wrote that song, and who still performs it, by the way, is Neil Diamond. I'm a Believer.
Neil Diamond?
I'm a Believer is a Neil Diamond song. And as I was saying,
never would have guessed.
Right. If you were listening to the music that we play in our live show, in between the parts, in between our segments, then you would have heard Neil Diamond's version of I'm a Believer.
Now, Neil Diamond is a very interesting character. He started out his musical career, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm going by memory, but I think it was him that started out as a psalmist in his synagogue.
Well, I don't know if I'd call him a psalmist, but I don't know.
Well, he sang the psalms, right?
Yeah, well, we don't really do it quite that way in our synagogues, but it's possible. It's possible. I know Neil Diamond is Jewish, and I'm sure he was active growing up in Brooklyn in his synagogue when he was younger. So it's quite possible. I don't know the answer to that, but Neil Diamond, of course, did star in one of the remakes of The Jazz Singer, and The Jazz Singer, that was the story of The Jazz Singer, of course, was somebody who had, as Nick attacks his typewriter, his laptop in the background there.
I can't do it quietly anymore.
Yeah, you're looking up The Jazz Singer, aren't you?
I know, I'm looking up Neil Diamond.
Oh, okay. Well, that was The Jazz Singer story, by the way, was the fellow who I don't remember his name in the show, in the movie, but he was a cantor, or a chazan, as we say in Hebrew, in his synagogue.
All right.
And so he would lead the prayer service as an official, and that's how he started his singing career. But then he branched off, sort of left the religion, so to speak, and became a jazz singer. And that's the story. It's a really interesting thing. But, okay, you guys don't want to hear all about this stuff, okay? Even though I know you like listening to whatever comes to our fertile minds. I understand that. But let's move on, Nick. So I don't know if you're going to feel as absolutely relieved by this information as I was. I mean, I felt like celebrating immediately when I learned that our Chief Medical Officer of Health, and by the way, am I the only person that thinks that the title Chief Medical Officer of Health is a little redundant? I mean,
yeah.
You're not going to be the Chief Medical Officer of Health. You're not going to be the Chief Medical Officer of
transportation.
Transportation. So I just find that to be a little odd that we keep using that term. But anyway, our Chief Medical Officer of Health in Canada, Dr. Theresa Tam, has made an announcement, ladies and gentlemen, and that announcement is that it's okay. We do not have to cancel Halloween this year. Now, the caveat is, as long as we all follow the rules. And I know, some people are going to go, more rules, etc. But that's not really my problem with this ruling, this statement. Am I the only person who's thinking to myself, really? Cancel Halloween? Was there any possibility that we were going to cancel Halloween? I mean, look, maybe you have restrictions, and there are going to be legal restrictions in place. No doubt about that. That's what Dr. Tam said, as long as you're following the rules. So there are going to be rules in place governing how we interact with one another during this quasi-holiday of Halloween. Okay, so you can restrict behavior, you can repress the people, you can say no Halloween observances this year whatsoever. It will be illegal for children to go out and trick-or-treat and knock on doors and look for candies, etc., or ask for candies. That would be a real shame, because I think it's one of the lovely, nice things in the fall for kids to do, and that it's a nice, setting aside the religious aspects of the holiday. It's a nice time for kids, but you could do all of that, okay? But cancel? Was there anyone who thought that we might be able to cancel? Like, what's next? We're going to cancel Christmas? Hey, the arrogance of these people, okay, that use this terminology, and they actually believe it. If we pass a regulation around the cabinet table, or if Dr. Tam says we're canceling Christmas this year, then we are going to cancel Christmas. I mean, the absurdity of it beggars description, Nick.
Listen, this is, what's funny, what makes this really funny, in a sick kind of way, is these people actually take themselves seriously. When they say they're going to cancel, let's say, Thanksgiving, I don't know, Halloween, they think the people would actually listen. It's one thing to tell people to stay home at Easter, but it's another to say you can't have Easter. I mean, no Easter eggs for you, no religious ceremonies for you.
Well,
wait a minute. I'm sorry, you don't get to decide that.
But
they have lost all contact with the ground. They're sucking on xenon gas and wondering why their brains are fried. If you gotta laugh, because if you don't laugh, you'll cry.
But can you suck on xenon gas?
If you're too close to a nuclear reactor, you can, I think.
Oh, dear.
Isn't xenon one of the gases produced in nuclear reaction?
I should know that, Nick, because I took grade 10 chemistry.
I'd like to see how many people can spell xenon correctly.
What's the first letter in xenon? Quick.
X.
X, that's it. Yes. What's the first letter in xylophone?
It's not a Z.
It's not a Z.
What's the first letter in what?
Xylophone.
In xylophone?
Yes.
Yeah, it's an X.
It's an X. What's the first?
Yes.
Okay, what's the first letter in Xavier?
It's an E.
No, it's not. It's an X. No, you were just pulling my leg. You're just having fun.
Of
Nick.
course.
Of course you are.
That's right. Xavier University.
Okay, but I think the way you've just put this, Nick, about, canceling, what are you going to do? Cancel Easter services? And then tongue in cheek, you talked about no Easter eggs for you. Okay. But I think, with respect, Nick, I think you're missing the point that I'm making. Okay. Is that you could actually pass a law, and even theoretically you could enforce a law, okay, preventing people from celebrating Easter. So no Easter services, no Easter whatever, ham or goose or turkey or whatever you have. We are going to have a law that you cannot go to church on Easter. There's no candlelight vigil on Easter morning celebrating, the resurrection. There's none of that, okay? We are going to ban all Easter practices. And not only that, we're even going to go further. We are going to prohibit any reference of Easter in the mainstream media, in the newspapers, and we're going to go to our friends at Google and Twitter, and we're going to say, remove all references of Easter, or references to Easter from social media sites, Facebook, etc. So theoretically, you could do all of that. But can you cancel the day? Can you cancel the holiday? Can you say, because we are prohibiting certain or all practices associated with this day traditionally, because we're doing that, the day, the holiday, no longer exists? And that's what I'm getting at. I mean, the hubris, the chutzpah of these people who think that you could just pass a regulation canceling a day. I don't know if I'm getting my point across very well.
Yeah, you can't, because what are they going to do? Take it out of the calendar? October 31st just doesn't exist now. October 12th, Thanksgiving. Does that not exist? And what about the American? What are you going to do with the American holidays? Are we going to say, well, if we can't have ours, we'll celebrate along with the Americans? Are they going to tell the Americans they got to take November, whatever their holiday is down there in November, off out of the calendar? So we'll end up with a year with only 200 days in it to keep that up. No, look, I get your point. I'm just trying to have some fun with it because it's just, this is so vapid. I mean, when you think of the quality of the individuals who are now running the country compared to what they were 50, 60 years ago, it was scary. Like, if you were to put John Diefenbaker in the House of Commons today, he would sit there thunderstruck at the low level of intelligence that ministers have, not just backbenchers, but the ministers. Look at Climate Barbie. I mean, she's as dumb as a bag of hair. Either that or she's one of the most loyal pieces of cannon fodder ever to grace the battlefield. I'm sorry, the woman, oh man, he would just, he'd sit there without being able to come up with an intelligent sentence, because when he walks into that xenon-filled room, his IQ would drop by 40 points.
Well, and of course, the chief, as he was known by, would thunder. He would. I could see him standing up in the House of Commons and thundering at his fellow members of Parliament. He had